Well, welcome back, everybody, to part four of Hegelians of the Storm. This is, again, going to be part four, starting out with chapter three of Consciousness, Force and Understanding, Appearance, and Supersensible World. This time, I think I've got a little bit better of a preparation. Let me go with Dehaka. A little bit of a preparation. We are going to be putting the words up on screen so that way everybody can see them, everybody can read them. And I'm just going to keep reading through it. You may be asking yourself, after 3 episodes of watching this, if you have already watched this up to this point, Chase, why are you doing this? I have no idea. I think that there's a certain set of files and a certain set of people who have participated in absolutely heinous activity. And I honestly, I don't even know what I can say on Twitch in order to, or YouTube, to make sure that I'm not banned. But what we can do is we can do our absolute best to bring awareness of the atrocities, make a little bread, make a little circus, that hopefully distracts people, or not distracts people. That's not the goal of me streaming. And I hope that you're not watching today for a distraction. I hope that you're watching today because you also don't know what to do. We're going to be playing some Dehaka today. Dehaka is a bruiser hero. Before we get into today's reading, looks like I need to lock in as well. What I do is with my Q, I grab onto people with my tongue, and then I can use my W in order to create a little radius around me that deals damage. We're going to be picking up a couple talents that boost that. Let's see here. Every time this Imperius goes in, we want to punish that with a Q, because then he can't get out. Every time that I get a takedown, I'm going to be getting a whole lot of essence, which is my trait. That essence allows me to heal back a significant amount of damage constantly. So like I can pop my trait and then get a lot of healing back. We do have a healer on our team, Lucio. He's great. Punish that. Oh, and I missed the minion, or I hit the minion because it stood in the way. Bloodlust consumed me. I'm excited to keep reading Hegel. Again, the reason that I picked Hegel's phenomenology of the spirit, as if there is a different phenomenology, is because it's the foundation of what's it called? German idealism, German ideology, something like that, which is just Western thinking about how to think about thinking and finding God. Ooh, nice dodge. And that is the basis for Marxism. And again, Marxism, I do strongly believe, is the only way out for any of us. Wait a minute, we don't have a healer. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I'm dead. Okay, so that makes sense because I was like, where's my freaking heals? Okay, so that means I thought we had a Lucio. Maybe it was a last minute swap. So that means I need to be a little bit more careful. I need to pick up that long range tongue grab. I think that is at level 13, but I can't exactly remember. Let's go underground. Nice thing about my stasis is that I can still heal during stasis. Also, boom, big chunky heals. But the requirement for getting those big chunky heals that we love so much is to get some enemy takedowns. So as long as we're, feasting on the corpses of our enemies, similar to a certain ruling class, then we'll always be in good business. But without that feasting, then there is no eating. Okay, fine. Pop a trait. Oh no! Stasis. Save me, Stasis. Stasis, save me. I feast upon their corpses. Careful, Hanzo. Careful, Hanzo. I could miss my skill shots so bad. He's gonna jump away. There we go. How did that see me? Whatever. Okay, we're gonna be healing a lot this game, and I need to play like I don't have a healer. Which is fine because Dehaka's level 10 is also like it's adaptation. All damage taken returns to healing, which is really nice. Let's go. Who wants a tongue? Looks like you do. Zuljin. Alright, Pierce goes in. We pull him out. And we beat him up. Jump him. Jump that guy. No! Gotcha. Okay, let's pick up adaptation. I think I could have gotten that a level ago. I honestly was looking at the scoreboard up at the top, and I thought we were the team down on levels, so I could have picked that up earlier, and that may have helped. Our level 1 quest is complete. What it does is it just makes our trait even stronger. And in an ARAM game like this, whoa. In an ARAM game like this where we don't have a healer, anything boosting our overall amount of healing is great. However, I like taking it even when we do have a healer, just because I find it to be so fun to like heal an incredible amount. See, we've got such a good amount of storage stored up, so we'll pop that. Oh, right into the belly. Dang. Okay. Stasis to get out of it. Adaptation. So again, we're going to heal back for all of that. And our trait is already full again. Can someone else take Tyrael? Oh, yeah, I will. Looks like Tyrael's a bot. And that was a casual quad kill. Let's see. Slow. 50%. I think I want... Yeah, I want Primal Swarm. Oh, shoot. I was not paying attention. I was like, yeah, let me try to focus on grabbing their Hanzo so much that I wasn't looking at my health bar at all. I don't know how long I was tanking that. Okay, level 16. I think I want Elongated Tongue to try to grab him from even further away. Let's see, let's use Brush Stalker. Dehaka doesn't mount. Instead, he crawls through the dirt, just as we all should. Can we grab him? I would like to. Ooh, I missed her. Dang it. Please. Oh, wow. About to take a lot of damage. Ugh. Oh, man, he was still focused on getting me in the belly. Oh my god, they don't like me. That's crazy. Is it because I've healed back more than my... Oh, almost more than their healer has healed? Pardon my ever-increasing ability to talk while playing games. Yeah, I literally spent the whole morning just trying to, get up the, not the courage, but like to just try to get up the, I guess, energy in order to actually do this. It's not that this is like exhausting. I love doing this. I think it's more so that I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Who wants to watch Heroes of the Storm? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. I want to play it. I want to play it and do readings. Oh my goodness. Nice. Almost a double kill. Okay, let's go for tunneling claws would get me out of jail, which would be pretty nice just because I'm getting put into CC jail quite a large amount of the time. But elongated tongue would help me pull them in from longer, so we're going to go with that. Just walking. Ooh, the urge to sing songs. Whoa. Oh my god. Yes, we can. Okay. So they are going to... Oh, shoot. Oh, look. I got put in jail again. That's never happened before. Woof. If only I had hit that Ariel. I was going for the Zul'jin, but um, clearly couldn't make my mind up betwixt the two. You know, I already know one of the next games that I want to play, one of the ones that I want to do on stream that is separate from Phenomenology of the Spirit. It's a game called Outer Wilds. I'm going to be picking that up here soon, and I just want to stream myself playing that because I think that it is a very cute game. Ow. No freaking way. This guy have a cooldown on that? This guy have a cooldown on that? Oh, man. Oh, man. Does that guy have a cooldown on that? It's like the only thing that's going through my head is I'm like, is there a cooldown? Chat, can I get hit by that one more time? Maybe I shouldn't just be standing there in the middle of everybody. Yeah. But dang! Oh, saved. That guillotine was coming down quick. I know another guillotine that ought to come down quick. Alright, get over here, Hanzo. Yeah, I'm walking right at you. Okay. I have to go with Change's Survival. Just because that's the only thing that'll be keeping me alive. So now my cooldown is 20 seconds on this, but it doesn't really seem to matter because Imperius doesn't have a cooldown on that ability that just brings me down, and then they all just wait, and just like that. Owie. Okay, so they're doing bottom. Playing it real careful here. Oh, man. Press every button. Okay, Imperius is here in the back line. Let's try to go save our Mephisto. No freaking way. Oh my god. Oh look, no cooldown ability. My God, where'd my health bar go? God, Imperius does so much damage. Let's see what he's building. Yeah, he's building trait build. Yeah, he's building trait build. Yeah, that ought to do it. Yeah, that ought to do it. Yeah, that ought to do it. This is a wonderful warm up to today's stream and indicative of how today is going to go, mostly because my neck hurts. Poor baby. Poor baby with the neck hurt. Oh, got stunned. So sad. Would have been a kill. Get over here. Alright, Zul'jin dead. However, so is our DPS. Alright, just beeline it back to the REL. Oh no. Gotta pop some stuff to hopefully get out of this. Nope, Tyrael, don't go in. Oh no, the robot. Yikes. That anti-heal is very potent. Alright, what does the anti-heal? I can't remember how Stitches works. Um, Oh, it's the hook. Okay, so if I get hooked, I'm dead. And if I get grabbed by Imperius, I'm dead. Oh, nice. Great job, Tower. I don't think Ariel makes it out of this. Oh, she did. Oh, she did. Oh, goodbye, Mephisto. Whoops. Whoops. Woof. 25 to 41. Oh, we're getting eviscerated. Come on, get out of there, Tyrael. You don't need to be in that. You really don't. Oh, man. Alright. Alright. Oh, I'm dead. Just gonna go for an early stasis. Hit our trait. Doesn't matter. Nothing freaking matters. I'm gonna die. Dang, they could just kind of walk at us. If only we had some sort of healer. Oh, look, the ability that doesn't have a cooldown. It doesn't have a cooldown. I keep saying that because consuming a Valorous Brand reduces the cooldown of Wrath of Angiras by 10 seconds. He's able to consume like 3 brands every time he smacks. So he is getting a lot of cooldown. I understand exactly why it's happening. I just wish it wasn't. TBH. Okay, well, that was the start of a pretty rough stream, and that's okay. That is a-okay. Oh no, they're not even gonna end the game. They're just gonna let the thing finish it. Oh man. Okay. Well, there we go. That was game one. Let's get into some readings. I'm going to bring this over here, and now, hypothetically, this should be up on stream. Now everybody has to read. See, now whenever I say these crazy sentences, you know that I'm saying them, probably just pronouncing them incorrectly, but I am saying them from the actual reading itself. Okay, let's get educated. So that way we can move on to the next book, because I already don't want to do this anymore. Okay, force and understanding, appearance and supersensible world. Paragraph 132. In the dialectical of sensory certainty, hearing and seeing, etc., have been lost to consciousness, and, as perceiving, consciousness has arrived at thoughts, which it first brings together. However, in the unconditioned universal, this unconditioned would now itself in turn be nothing other than the one side extreme for oh my goodness, than the one-sided extreme of being for itself, if it were taken as inert, simple essence, for it would then be confronted by non-essence. But if it were related to this, it would itself be unessential, and consciousness would not have escaped from the illusion of perception. However, it has proved to be the sort of universal that has returned into itself out of such a conditioned being for itself. That little dash means that I take a sip of water. Mmm. Hydrate or dihydrate, folks. This unconditioned universal, which is now the true objective of consciousness, is still as object of it. Consciousness has not yet grasped its concept as concept, and neither have we. It is essential to distinguish the two. For consciousness, the object has returned into itself from its relationship. Whoa! Whoa! Sorry, everybody. I forgot that I turned on that setting. Oh no. We were doing so good. Nice job, warbling ox. Okay. This unconditioned universal, which is now the true object of consciousness, is still as object. But consciousness is not yet for itself the concept, and consequently does not recognize itself in that reflected object. For us, this object has emerged through the movement of consciousness in such a way that consciousness is involved in the emergence of it, and the reflection on both sides is the same or only one reflection. But since in this movement consciousness had for its content only the objective essence, not consciousness as such, for consciousness, the result, is to be posited in objective significance, and consciousness is still drawing back from what has emerged, so that to consciousness it is the essence as objective. And of course, there's a footnote there, a footnote that we will not be able to read until the very end of the book, which is, of course, how you're supposed to read footnotes. Carrying on. With this, the understanding has indeed sublated its own untruth and the untruth of the object, and what has thereby emerged for it is the concept of the true, as a true that is in itself, which is not yet concept, or which lacks the being for itself of consciousness, and which the understanding, without knowing itself therein, lets it go its own way. The true goes about its essential business for itself, so that consciousness plays no part in its free realization, but merely looks on and simply apprehends it. To begin with, therefore, we have to step into its place and be the concept which develops what is contained in the result. In this developed object, which presents itself to consciousness as something that simply is, consciousness first becomes explicitly a comprehending consciousness. The result was the unconditioned universal, initially in the negative and abstract sense that consciousness negated its one sided concepts and abstracted them, that is, gave them up. But the result has, in itself, a positive significance. In it, the unity of being for itself and being for another is posited, or the absolute opposition in its immediately posited as the same essence. It initially seems to concern only the form of the movements in reciprocal relation, but being for itself and being for other are the content itself as well, since the opposition in its truth can have no other nature than the one that was emerged in the result, vis-a-vis, that the content taken in perception to be true belongs in fact only to the form and dissolves in the unity of the form. This content is at the same time universal. There can be no other content by which its particular constitution would resist integration in this unconditioned universality. A content of this kind would be some determinate way of being for itself and of relating to another. But to be for itself and to relate to another in general makes up the nature and essence of the content, and their truth is to be an unconditioned universal, and the result is purely and simply universal. But because this unconditioned universal is object for consciousness, there emerges in it the distinction of form and content, and in the shape of content, the moments look like they did when they first presented themselves. On one side, a universal medium of many subsistent matters, and on the other side, a one reflected into itself, in which their independence is extinguished. The former is the dissolution of the thing's independence, or the passivity that is a being for another, while the latter is being for itself. We have to see how these moments exhibit themselves in the unconditioned universality which is their essence. It is clear at the outset that since there is only that since there are only in this universality, they are no longer detached from each other at all, but are within themselves essentially self-sublating sides, and what is posited is only their transition into each other. I feel like I said a lot of words there. We have to see how these moments exhibit themselves on the unconditioned universality, which is their essence. The knowing becomes the knowing becomes the thing that is the knowing is a sentence that we're going to read in the next paragraph. I guarantee it. So one of the moments appears as the essence that has stepped to the one side, as universal medium, or as the subsistence of interdependent matters. But the independence of these matters is nothing other than this medium, or this universal, is simply and solely the plurality of the divisive universals of this kind, that within itself the universal is in undivided unity with this plurality oh my gosh, that within itself the universal is in undivided unity with this plurality means, however, that these matters are each where the other is. They mutually interpenetrate. Also, not a good enough reason to use that word. One of these days, when I read interpenetrate, I'm not going to have to hesitate to think about saying that line. Also, there's a little dash thing. I should probably look up what that is, because right now it means water break. But without coming into contact with each other, because oh no, I did the thing again. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, there we go. But without coming into contact with each other, because conversely the differentiated plurality is equally independent. At the same time, their pure porosity, oh, that's a new word. At the same time, their pure porosity. Oh my God. All right, well, we're going to cut this all out of the YouTube video. Let's find porosity again, because what we're going to do is we're going to click that. We're going to Google porosity. The state or property of being porous. Hilarious. We could have guessed that, but we didn't. At the same time, their pure porosity, their ability to trickle information through, or their sublatedness, is thereby posited. This sublatedness, you know what? We're going to look up posited as well, just because I'm pretty sure I know what posited means, but I feel like I don't. Okay, posited. Simple past tense and past participle. Oh my god. Partiperdap? Okay, posit. Posit is a transitive verb to assume or put forward as for consideration or the basis of argument. Okay, so that means that I just keep saying pure porosity, porousness, or the sublatedness. They're sublated means to be distilled down into, question mark. I know that sublation, or no, maybe that's sublimation. It's when the bubbles happen. These little CO2 bubbles from uh, liquid nitrogen, or is it frozen carbon or whatever it is. Anyways, is thereby posited. This sublatedness, or the reduction of this diversity to a pure being for itself, is in turn nothing other than the medium itself, and this is the independence of the differences, or the matters posited as independent immediately pass over again into their unity, and their unity immediately passes over into unfolding, and this again goes back into reduction. But this movement is what is called force. Okay, so we just did some Hegelian dialectics back there in order to understand force. One of its moments, namely the force as expansion of the independent matters in their being, is the expression of force, but the force as the disappearance of the matters is the force driven back into itself out of its expression, or the force proper. First, however, the force driven back into itself must express itself, and secondly, in this expression, it is force that is within itself, just as much as it is expression in this being within itself. When we thus keep the two moments in their immediate unity, the understanding, to which the concept of force belongs, is strictly speaking the concept which sustains the different moments as different, for within themselves they are not supposed to be different. The difference is thus only in thought, or what has been posited in the foregoing is at first only the concept of force, not its reality. In fact, however, force is the unconditioned universal. Oh, wait a minute, I skipped two water breaks back there. In fact, force is the unconditioned universal, in which is equally in itself for an other, or which contains the difference within itself. Water break. For difference is nothing other than the being for another. So, for force to be in its truth, it must be completely set free from thought and posited as the substance of these differences, i.e., first substance, as this whole force remaining essentially in and for itself, and then its differences as substantial, or as moments subsisting for themselves. Force as such, or as driven back into itself, is thus itself an exclusive one, for which the unfolding of the matters is another subsisting essence, and thus two distinct independent sides are posited. But the force is also the whole, or it remains what is according to its concept. That is, these differences remain pure forms, superficial vanishing moments. At the same time, there would be no difference at all between the force proper driven back into itself and the unfolding of the independent matters. If they did not have a subsistence, or there would be no force if it did not exist in these opposite ways, but that it does exist in these opposite ways means nothing other than the two moments are at the same time themselves independent. It is therefore this movement in which the two moments perpetually acquire independence and then sublate themselves again that we are to consider. Water break. It is clear in general that this movement is nothing other than the movement of perceiving, in which the two sides, the perceiver and the perceived, are on the one hand one and undifferentiated as the apprehension of the true, and yet each side is at the same time equally reflected into itself, or is for itself. These two sides are here moments of force. They are in unity, but equally this unity, which appears as the middle term over against the extremes that are for themselves, perpetually disintegrates into just these extremes, which are only because of this. I'm not going to do another water break. Thus, the movement which previously displayed itself as the self annihilation of contradictory concepts here has the objective form and is movement of force, as a result of which the unconditioned universal emerges as something non objective, or as the interior of things. Force, as thus determined, is one side of its concept, since it is represented as such or as reflected into itself, but as a substantialized extreme, and in fact the extreme posited under the determinancy of the one. The subsistence of the unfolded matters is thereby excluded from force, and is an other than force, since it is necessary that force itself to be this subsistence, for that or that force expresses itself, its expression presents itself like this. That this other approaches the force and solicits it. But in fact, since it necessarily expresses itself, what was posited as another essence is in the force itself. Force was posited as a one, and its essence, self expression, was posited as an other, approaching from the outside. But this must be retracted. Force is rather itself this universal medium of the subsistence of the movement of the moments as matters, or force has expressed itself. And what was supposed to be the other soliciting is really force itself. So now it exists as a medium of the unfolding matters, but equally essentially it has the form of the sublatedness of the subsisting matters, is thus now something other than force. And force, this its and force has this its essence outside it. But since force must necessarily be this oneness, but is not yet posited as oneness, this other approaches it and solicits it to reflection into itself or sublates its expression. But in fact, force itself is this reflectedness into itself, or this sublatedness of the expression, the oneness, in the way in which it appeared, a vis-a-vis, as another, vanishes. Force is this other itself. It is force driven back into itself. All right. I'll agree with you, Hegel. What turns up as other and solicits force both to the expression and to return into itself immediately proves to be itself force, for the other shows up both as the universal medium and as one. And again, I just want to clarify before I keep reading. We're reading this to gain a understanding as to why this entire ideology of German idealism had to be left behind. Had to, like, everything here that we're reading, sure, you're gonna be able to, if you can comprehend this, because I don't know if I can. Um, I'm getting like pieces of it, and I feel like the pieces that I am getting are going to be like, cool, I'm going to ingrain that into how I think about thinking, but I'm not going to shape my entire philosophy of the world and like of how to have a relationship with God, or a material relationship to my fellow workers via Hegel. This is not going to improve the quality of anybody's life. And that's why it's so important to understand, just so that way we can let it go. I feel like maybe this is like fundamentals for understanding Marxism a little bit better. Um, but honestly, Cedric Robinson's book, Black Marxism, a history of the Black radical tradition, I found to be a much smoother interpretation of materialism, and applying and improving on Hegel, or improving on Marx and Engels' interpretations of Hegel, because Marx and Engels went around. They said, "All right, we're gonna apply the dialectical process to material conditions, created dialectical materialism." Cedric Robinson is like, okay, how do we contextualize that in a way that's actually going to make sense and also is relevant to the people who have suffered the most at the hands of capitalist imperialism? Um, so that is definitely one of the books that I do want to read. Um, but I've felt very strongly as I've been reading these books that, people keep making references to Hegel and references to other philosophers. I'm not going to read Plato. I'm not going to read Aristotle. I feel pretty confident that I can skip over those and not have my understanding of the world be impacted too much. I do feel like, though, to understand the dialectical process, the dialecticability of the universe, I feel strongly that we should at least read Hegel, or at least, maybe phenomenology, um, in order to have a better understanding. Because right now I'm like, man, I get it, but I don't think I totally get it. So this is again just to try to totally get it, um, through its recontextualized form, not We're not reading this raw and trying to comprehend this raw. We're trying to just get a baseline understanding, and then from there we can build off of other knowledge where those philosophers and those authors have already done a lot of the heavy lifting in recontextualizing. It would then be just my responsibility to make sure that we find authors that are actually recontextualizing in a way that centers, the most oppressed people on the planet, so that way we can understand capitalism and imperialism and colonialism as they are, as they have affected people in a material sense. Because again, just jumping back to why we're doing this, um, man, if you haven't read those files, they are heinous. But in addition to the heinous crimes, there is also an incredible amount of admitted propaganda. Um, the entire, basically anything on the internet for the past 15 years, if not longer, has been a form of mimetic war. Yeah, that's right. I said mimetic war. Um, it is very much been a imbalance of power, and I feel that streaming this knowledge, streaming this book, reading this out loud and talking about these things is the best way that we can push back, for right now. Um, that is also not me being a somebody who's putting my hands up in the air saying this is the only thing that we can do. There's a lot more that we can do. And if you have a strong gut feeling that you should do something that would improve the material conditions of the working class in any way, shape, or form, then you should do it. You should do it. But one of those things that we should definitely be doing as well is applying theoretical knowledge, because these people have just been sitting around. They spent their whole lives working on this. Um, we don't owe it to them to be just for having done that, but we owe it because, man, some of these ideas are pretty good. Hegel's, eh, that's my initial understanding. But we got dialectical materialism out of that. So let's get back into the reading. I did a little stalling for as long as I could, and as soon as we finish up the section, we're gonna get into another game of Here's the Storm. Okay, where were we? And in such a way that each of these shapes at the same time turns up only as a vanishing moment. Consequently, force, by the fact that and another is for it, and it is for another, has not yet emerged from its concept at all. But there are at the same time two forces present. The concept of both is no doubt the same, but it has emerged from this unity into duality. Instead of remaining entirely and essentially only a moment, the opposition seems, by the bifurcation is a newer word to me, but I know that it means to split into two. So it's like I don't know. Let's say you've got a stream of river, and then you put a little thing into it, and that then changes where it goes. That I believe might be an acceptable definition of bifurcation. There's probably a more accurate one with light. Into wholly independent forces, to have withdrawn from the dominion of unity. We have now to see more closely what the situation is with this independence. Initially, the second force turns up as the one that solicits, and moreover, in its content, as the universal medium in contrast to the force determined as solicited. But since the second force is essentially an alteration of these two moments, and is itself force, in fact, it is similarly the universal medium only when it is solicited to be so. And similarly, too, it is a negative unity, or solicits the withdrawal of force only because similarly to, oh nope, reading the same sentence, only because it is solicited. Consequently, this distinction too, which obtained between the two forces, that one was supposed to be the soliciting force, the other is solicited, is transformed into the same reciprocal exchange of the determinancies. The play of the two forces thus consists in their being determined in opposite ways, their being for another in this determination, and the absolute, immediate alteration of the determinations, a transition through which alone these determinations are, in which the forces seem to turn up independently. The soliciting force, e.g., I don't know what e.g. stands for. Let's find out together. I do want to try to enhance e.g. meaning. Exemplia gratia. I do want to try to normalize, not normalize because I don't think anybody should be talking like this, but I do think that we should have the ability to understand, and academia is so gatekeepy. Um, and this is one of those reasons why, where it's like are you just throwing random Latin in? I know vis anytime that we see viz, that means vis-a-vis, or it doesn't, which would be even funnier. But eg just means for example. Exemplia gratia. Thanks, Latin, is posited as universal medium, and the solicited, by contrast, as repressed force. Sorry, didn't want to get a burp in there, unless we're here to listen to my burps. But the former is itself universal medium only through the other's being repressed force, or latter, or the latter is really the soliciting force for the former, and is what first makes it a medium. The first force has determinacy only through the other and is soliciting only insofar as it is solicited by the other to be soliciting, and just as immediately it loses the determinacy given to it, for this passes over, or rather has already passed over, to the other. The external soliciting force turns up as a universal medium, but only through its having been solicited by the other force to do so. But this means that the latter posits the soliciting force in this way and is really itself essentially a universal medium. It posits the soliciting force in this way just because this other determination is essential to it, i.e., um, which I don't remember what that means, because this is really its own self. For the completion of insight into the concept of this movement, attention may be drawn to a further point, that the differences themselves show up in a twofold difference. Once as a difference of content, in that one extreme is force reflected into itself, while the other is a medium of the matters, and again as a difference of form, in that one is soliciting, the other solicited, the former active, the latter passive. By the difference of content, they are differentiated in general or for us, but by the difference of form, they are independent, separating from each other in their relation and opposed. The extremes on both of these sides are thus nothing in themselves. These sides in which their different essence was supposed to consist are only vanishing moments, are an immediate transition of each side into the opposite side, and this fact comes to be for consciousness in its perception of the movement of force. But for us, as we remarked already, there is also something more, vis-a-vis, that in themselves the differences, as differences of content and of form, vanished, and on the side of form, the active soliciting factor, that which is for itself, was in essence the same as that which on the side of content presented itself as a force driven back into itself. The passive solicited factor, or that which is for another on the side of form, was in the essence the same as that which on the side of content presented itself as a universal medium of the many matters. It resulted from this that the concept of force becomes actual through duplication into two forces, and how it comes to do so. These two forces exist as essences that are for themselves, but their existence is a movement of each other towards the other, such that their being is rather a pure positedness through an other, i.e., their being has really the pure My goodness. Their being has really the pure significance of vanishing. They are not the sort of extremes that retain for themselves something firm, transmitting towards each other into the middle term and into their contact only an external property. On the contrary, what they both are, they are only in this middle term and contact. In this, there is immediately both the repression of force into itself, or its being for itself, and its expression, both soliciting and being solicited. Consequently, these moments are not distributed to two independent extremes, offering each other only an opposed extremity, but their essence is purely and simply this. Each is solely through the other, and what each force thus is through the other, it immediately no longer is, while it is it. They have thus, in fact, no substances of their own to support and maintain them. The concept of force rather maintains itself as the essence in its very actuality. Force as actual is simply and solely in the expression, which at the same time is nothing other than the sublation of itself. This actual force represented as being free from its expression and as being for itself. It is the force driven back into itself. But in fact, this determinacy, as we have found, is itself only a moment of the expression. Thus the truth of force and remains Thus the truth of force remains only the thought of force, and the moments of its actuality, its substances and its movement, collapse unresistingly into an undifferentiated unity. A unity which is not force driven back into itself, for this is itself only such a moment, but this unity is its concept as concept. Thus the realization of force is at the same time loss of reality. And in that realization, it has really become something quite different, perfect, vis-a-vis this universality which is the which the understanding recognizes at the outset, or immediately as its essence, and which also proves to be its essence in the supposed reality of the force, in the actual substances. Insofar as we regard the first universal and the understanding's concept in which force is not yet for itself, the second is now the essence of force as it exhibits itself in and for itself. Or, conversely, if we regard the first universal as the immediate, which was supposed to be an actual object for consciousness, then this second is determined as the negative of the sensorily objective force. It is force as it is, and in its true essence, only as an object of the understanding. The first universal would be force driven back into itself, or force as substance, while the second is the interior of things, as interior, which is the same as the concept as concept. Woof. Scrolling down here, because man, we keep going. We got a couple more pages of this. But you know what? I feel like I've been talking for a really long time. Let's get another game in. Oops, I need to edit the stream too. This is part 4. This is part 4. Done. Okay. So we're leaving off at paragraph 144. And we're going to get back into a game of Heroes of the Storm. Because, oh my god. I think that it's making a little bit of sense. Force as a concept of consciousness and the multiple ways in which it reflects itself onto the modern world, onto the perceivable world, I think is what I meant to say. um Something that pushes and pulls. Oh no. Oh yay. Can I please just play Zul'jin? Please. Can I please just play Zul'jin? Oh, I really don't want to play. Oh god, between Samuro or the Butcher. Uh, I guess Butcher's a little bit better. So we're going to be playing a little bit of E.T.C. E.T.C is not a Latin acronym. Thank God. We're done with those now. At least temporarily. Um, ETC stands for Elite Tauren Chieftain, which, uh, if you ever played Warcraft 3, you could play as the Tauren Chieftain. He's one of the heroes of the Orc faction. Um, and he's part of a band, and it's like a whole what's that called? Like deep cut of World of Warcraft lore. There was like a whole bunch of items and stuff. I don't know what are we going up against. Melee, ranged. Honestly, block party might not be bad. Just because we're going to be dealing a lot of like they're going to be getting a lot of auto attacks out. But they do have some melee ranged people, so I think I'm going to go Guitar Hero, and we're going to. You gotta be joking me. Oh no. We got one of those butchers. We got one of those butchers. Warbling Ox, what do you mean by one of those butchers? I mean one of those butchers. A butcher who just runs in and dies. So. Oh no. Oh, and they left the game. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Great. Thank God. Well, I don't know. We're still gonna give it our all. It is not over yet. But it might be. It might be. Especially because we're in CC City. The nice thing about this game, the reason that I play Heroes of the Storm a little bit more than I play League and by like more, it means I don't play it at all. Oh, nice! It was almost like I knew what I was doing. Um, is because experience is shared across the team. So if that's something, if you're like, oh, I don't know what Heroes of the Storm is, it's a MOBA, but it is a lot kinder than League of Legends. Because League of Legends is all about, oh god, weakness detected. League of Legends is all about like solo carrying. Let's go with this one. Okay, come on, come on. Nope, I cannot stand toe to toe with them. What killed me? Discord. A kitten. Oh, hey, you're over there. I didn't even notice that the butcher was not participating. It's almost like it's probably better if we don't have the butcher bot here with us. Oh no. Can I be Muradin instead of ETC? No. Goodness, they are so aggressive. They're so playing the game the way that the game is meant to be played. Why would they do that? Oh man. God, that Alarak does a lot of damage. I should learn how to play Alarak one day. There's like a couple heroes that, for the life of me, could not tell you how they work. Could not tell you. We're just going to continue to increase our auto attack damage here, or the healing that we get from our auto attacks. So now, stun some people. Boop everybody back. So now I think every time that I use guitar solo, I deal more auto attack damage, which is in relation with how our auto attacks heal by 60%. So 60% of our auto attack damage. So anything increasing our auto attack damage is going to be a good thing. Oh god, I'm stuck. Nice job, me. Alright, I killed the butcher. No, you don't get to taunt on us. I mean, you do. Oh, I missed. Oh no. Wow, that Alarak is so Smart. Alarak said, "No, get back here. We're getting shredded. We're getting shredded." Wait, I'm playing E.T.C. Did somebody say shredding? Shred! I'm just getting right out of there. And yet I have a feeling that Alarak is still going to be able to pull me back in. And that's mostly because I don't understand how he works. This is why we're reading Hegel, because knowledge is power. Oh no. Oh man. What an excellent series of movements. It's like they know what I'm doing. It's like they know how my character works. And once I use my cooldowns, they just play around it. Incredible. Honestly, we're just going to leave the Butcher back there. Let's pick up Mosh Pit. Mosh Pit is a very fun ability. Wow, I'm getting dragged all the way back. They just have so much CC. God, and that lightning bolt. What even is that? What even is that? It's the lightning bolt that kills you is what it is. Good heavens. Can I get it off? I can. Nice. Thank you for the save. May just gets out. Oh, I'm dead. They all remember that they could just turn and look at me. One of the most imbalanced mechanics about this game is awareness. Okay, perfect. We're going to pick up Encore. Encore is going to reduce the cooldown of our ultimate by quite a bit each time that it hits an enemy, which is good because we want to mosh pit as much as possible, especially into a team like this. Stay alive! Can I kill him? No, I can't. Actually, they can just kill me. Oh no. Oh nice. And Jim Raynor is just able to unload into me. Oh, I got my stuff. Got my stuff blocked. They've just got so much CC. Actually, rather than CC, what they just have is a lot of movement control. Um, which, you know, makes sense. Oh, man. Goodbye, the Butcher. Butcherbot, no! Dang, so sorry for the stream. I guess we're just two bot games in. And yikes. Yeah. Well, it was a great mosh, but nothing was able to happen because of it. However, let's see, how is damage working on our team? So looks like damage is coming from Diva and me. Great, great, awesome, great. Another win for Silly Samuel. This might be a double game. I might just want to do another ARAM game after this, just because sub 10 minutes. Are we serious? Yeah, we're stunning Alarak. Oh my god, the Lucio boop is so ridiculous. As somebody who plays Lucio, I'm like, eh, it makes sense. It's beautiful. Okay, where'd they go? Smacking, smacking. That Lucio is looking to do is probably just get behind and then do a crazy boop into the wall. Another problem is that we don't have a lot of siege. By we don't have a lot of siege, I mean we don't have any siege. So our actual ability to get up close and personal is pretty limited. But you know what? We just hit things. Oh no. Alright, I thought I was going to be able to get out, but the Lucio was ready with the boop, which apparently I am affected by in my power slide. Why you oughta. Why you oughta. We're getting back in there. It's a 9 to 27 game. We are just getting shredded. Got power slide back up, but what can we do with it? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. What an incredible. Oh man, I walked right into that. Okay. Shoot. Oh my god, my entire health bar. What was that? Discord Strike dealt 1,500 damage. How does he do that much damage? What is he, some sort of melee assassin? He is. Okay, a 12-minute, 12-second game. You know what that means. Reported. That's what that means. Yeah, their Alarak was going nuts. All right, let's try to get one more in before we continue on. Oh, look, that was my first time playing E.T.C. Okay, we've got a whole bunch. I think that every 50 levels, we're currently halfway there. Every 50 levels, I'm going to open up a whole bunch of loot chests. And it's time to take a little sip of my oolong tea. Ooh! The best part about ARAM is that it is random. It's all random. It's all mid. If I've never explained that, that is what ARAM actually stands for. All random, all mid. As you could probably tell, though, just from watching. Okay, my turn. I'm gonna deal some damage. I hate, I hate both of these healers. Okay, well, who do you hate the least? And it would be great if we could get an Arthas or a Mal'Ganis. But you know what? We don't need a tank. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Okay, let's see. Because we're probably gonna die a lot, I think that what I need to do is I'm gonna go ace in the hole. Deal 12% more damage to stunned or slowed heroes. Yeah, we have some slowing on our team. We're gonna pick up Behemoth armor at level 12. Level 12, level 4. Then let's see. I think we're gonna. I feel they'll rush, and we're gonna go with Hyperion. Okay, so he's gonna do that the whole game. That's annoying. But I'm gonna do that, so. And then we boop him back. I just gotta watch out for Nazebo's spiders. Those will mess me up. Speaking of, honestly, maybe I should have gone like a Q build. Oh, those spiders are back. Killing me. Thank you. Knew he was in there. Damn, did those spiders hit me again? Ugh. No, please. Nice. Vengeance. Again, we're going to pick up Behemoth armor. You know what? Maybe I go fight or flight. Yeah, let's play a little bit more active of a gameplay. Game style. Oh no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, let's go with fight or flight. An emotional state that aren't we all in? Somebody kill that bear. Man, we're doing damage, and I don't even know why. I think it's just ace in the hole. Adrenaline rush. Yeah, let's do that. I want my ranged upgrade. Give me my ranged upgrade. Oh, there went my health bar. Oh no. I need to make sure that I'm walking over these potions. Somebody kill that bear. I gotta get out of here. Okay, I don't know what was going on below me, but it looks like it was good stuff. I was thinking to myself, okay, as long as I don't get hit by some spiders here, I'm probably going to be all right. Oh, shoot. Oh, there was the team fight. Nice. Nice. They don't call me Jim Laner for nothing. You know what? This is such a less stressful Raynor build than I usually do. I'm actually like I'm entering a flow state just playing this because I'm like, wow. I just sit here and I hit my little buttons. Oh no, I'm dead. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Pretty hilarious timing of entering that flow state, or at least admitting to entering the flow state. Let's see. I think I want Empower Adrenaline Rush because I've kind of been skipping on my Q. I guess that was the first one. Yeah, we're gonna go for like a melee attack. Um, Melee attack, but without the pressure of that level 1 Gambit spell, which is, God, there's so much pressure. She almost killed me. Oh, yeah, I've got burst damage. Yeah, I've got some burst damage. Her W is really nice because it also inspires the minions. So I can deal a bunch of damage. Oh, I'm dead again. I was so focused on that Cassia that I should have been a little bit more focused on that E.T.C walking right up at me. If a tank's walking at you, it's probably not a good idea. You probably shouldn't just stand still like I did. But it's kind of funny, you know? Um, but yeah, so Inspire affects our minions as well. So if you are playing Jim Raynor in an off lane, like in an actual game, which I should probably play more of, just because ARAM's good because it's exciting. But the intensity of an actual game is just unparalleled. Okay, let's kill you. I'm so sorry, Cassia. I'm so Ari. I'm so Ari. Oh no. Let's just get some free damage in. So now we get our W casts for free, which are really nice. Which just means more W's. More W's. Waiter, more W's, please. Oh no. Oh no, please. I just want to live. Wow, I lived. Shut them up, is what I wish that he said. Why? Because it would be funny. Wow, that was a random cue. Nice. We just sit here, we just keep procking cues, and honestly, because it feels so good, what I might do at level 20 is pick up the you get cues every three shots rather than the 4 shots that it currently is. I'm just gonna go for a little ult. I'm gonna boost up our little minions with this push, and that should take care of that. Somebody, what's that dog doing? Oh no, I'm dead. Yeah, I wasn't gonna make it out of that one. Damage not doing too bad. Everything's not doing too bad. Hogger is absolutely killing it. Hogger is one of the heroes that I have no idea how to play. Waiting for a Pallytime deep dive on that one. Shout out to Pallytime. Um, if you ever want to learn actually how to play the game, he is a great YouTuber slash Twitch streamer. Let's see here. I'll go with Cavalry's arrived. No, actually, I'm gonna go for the self-healing. Oh no. Oh, thank you, Nazebo. And we just keep the damage rolling. Yeah, I'm gonna go for Raiders roll. Oh, there's a Cassia right there. Jeez, terrifying. You get a gem, and you get a gem, and you get a gem, and you get a gem. Nice. Therefore, gotta take it down. We can back it up. Somebody fight that dog. Why am I slowed? What's slowing me? My life for ire. Okay, honestly, that heal is so nice. I've never played with it before. No. Feels good. I think we lost the stream for a second. Okay, we're back. Okay. I wonder how long the stream was down for. Hopefully not that long. Okay, and then let's go back. See Deckard Fun. God, that heal's great. Oh no. I saw my life flash before my eyes. dead? I am dead. Ah, I should have been paying more attention. I got focused on the bloodlust. Our team is doing great, though. You got this, guys. Man, I've died 6 times. Oof. Second time that our Lunara has been killed by that little death ball. But at least it wasn't me that time. Oh, my E grant's unstoppable. Okay, so keep that up. So please tell me I don't die to spiders. Paid attention to my health bar that time. Barely. Oh, I got stepped in the stun. Okay, nice, nice, great damage. 40,000. Okay, gem build. Activate to increase the next damage. Activate to increase the damage of the next Herodric cube. Oh wait, they all do the Herodric cubes. Huh. Well, we like a little recommendation. Okay, that was enough chit chat. Let's get back into the meat and the potatoes. That was my first time playing Raynor ever. The joke that never stops being funny. Okay, let us leave that. And then let us bring this back up here. We're continuing on. Hegel, leaving off paragraph 144. Within this interior truth as the absolute universal, which has been purged of the opposition of the universal and singular, and has come to be for the understanding, for the first time there now opens up above the sensory world, as the apparent world, a supersensible world, as the true world, above the vanishing hither. There opens up the enduring beyond. Whew, man, we're starting out rough, and in itself, which is the first, and therefore imperfect appearance of reason, or only the pure element in which the truth has its essence. Our object is thus from now on the syllogism. All right, we're looking that one up. Let's learn together. Syllogism. Syllogism? Syllogism. All right, well, who's been syllogized? A form of deductive reasoning consisting of a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. All humans are mortal. I am human. Therefore, I am mortal. Reasoning from the general to the specific. Deduction, a subtle or specious piece of reasoning. Okay, that's new. Our object is thus from now on the syllogism for which it has its extremes, the interior of things and the understanding, for its middle term, appearance, but the movement of the syllogism gives the further determination of what the understanding discerns in the interior through the middle term, and provides the experience that the understanding gains of this relationship its syllogistic interconnectedness. Jesus. For consciousness, the interior is still pure beyond. Because consciousness does not yet find itself in it, the interior is empty, for it is merely the nothing of the appearance, and positively the simple universal. This mode of being of the interior immediately accords with those who say that the interior of things is not cognizable. But the ground for this would have to be conceived otherwise. Certainty, no knowledge of this interior is forthcoming as it is here in its immediacy, but not because reason is too short sighted or limited, or however one else likes to call it. On this question, nothing is known yet, because we have not yet penetrated that deeply but water break. But owing to the simple nature of the thing itself, that is to say, because in the void nothing is cognized or expressed from the other side, just because this interior is as determined as the beyond of consciousness, the result is, of course, the same as if a blind person is placed amid the wealth of the supersensible world, assuming it has such wealth, whether to be its own specific content or whether consciousness itself be this content. And if a sighted person is placed in pure darkness, yawn break, or if you like, in pure light. In the supersensible world is just this: the sighted person sees as little in its pure light as in its pure darkness, and just as much the blind person in the abundance of the wealth that lies before him. If that were all there was to the interior and to our unification with it through appearance, then nothing would remain but to stick to appearance, i.e., to take something as true which we know is not true. Or, in order that there may after all be something in the void, which of course first came about as emptiness of objective things, but must, as emptiness in itself, be taken also as emptiness of all spiritual relationships, and the distinctions of consciousness as consciousness, in order then that in this completed void, which is even called the holy, there may be something after all. We would have to fill it up with reveries, appearances, which consciousness engenders by itself. It would have to be put up with being treated so badly, for it would not deserve anything better, since even reveries are better than its emptiness. The interior or the supersensible beyond, however, has arisen. It comes from appearance, and appearance is its mediation, or appearance is its essence, and in fact its filling. The supersensible is the sensory and the perceived posited as it is in truth, but the truth of the sensory and the perceived is to be an appearance. The supersensible is therefore appearance as appearance. If this leads us to think that the supersensible is therefore the sensory world, or the world as it is for immediate sensory certainty and perception, then our understanding is topsy turvy, for appearance is not the world of sensory knowledge, and perception as a world that simply is, but this world posited as sublated, or in truth as inner. It is often said that the supersensible is not appearance, but what is here understood by appearance is not appearance, but rather the sensory world as it is itself real actuality. The understanding, which is our objective, finds itself in just this position, that the interior has come about for it to begin with only as the universal, still unfilled in itself. The play of forces has just this sole negative significance of not being in itself, and this sole positive significance of being the intermediary, but outside the understanding. The relation of the understanding to the interior through the mediation is, however, its movement, through which the interior will fill itself for the understanding. The play of forces is immediately for the understanding, but the true for it is the simple interior. The movement of force is therefore likewise the true, only as something altogether simple. We have seen, however, that this play of forces is so constituted that the force which is solicited by another force is equally the soliciting force for this other force, which becomes itself a soliciting force only in virtue of this. What is present in this interplay is likewise merely the intermediate alternation, or the absolute interchange, of the determinancy which constitutes the sole content of what emerges, to be either universal medium or negative unity. In In its determinate emergence itself, it immediately ceases to be what it is on emerging. By its determinate emergence, it solicits the other side, which thereby expresses itself. That is, the latter is now immediately what the first was supposed to do. These two sides, the relationship of soliciting and the relationship of the opposed determinate content, are each for itself the absolute reversal and interchange. But these two relationships themselves are again one and the same, and the difference of form, of being the solicited and the soliciting, is the same as the difference of content, the solicited as such, vis-a-vis the passive medium, on the other hand, the soliciting, the active, the negative unity, or the one. In this way there vanishes all difference of particular forces which were supposed to be present in this movement, confronting each other in general, for they rested solely on those differences, and the difference between the forces, along with both those differences, likewise collapses into only one difference. Thus, there is neither force nor soliciting and being solicited, nor the determinancy of being a subsistent medium and a unity reflected into itself. There is neither something singly for itself singly, nor diverse oppositions. But what there is in this absolute exchange is only difference as universal, or as a difference to which the many oppositions have been reduced. This difference as a universal is consequently the simplicity in the play of force itself, and the truth of this play, it is the law of force. The absolutely changing appearance becomes the simple difference through its relation to the simplicity of the interior or of the understanding. The interior is initially only the universal in itself, but this is in itself simple universal, is essentially no less the absolutely the universal difference, for it is the result of the exchange itself, or the exchange is its essence, but the exchange, since it is posited in the interior as it is in truth, is herewith received in that interior as likewise absolutely universal difference, becalmed and remaining equal to itself. Or negation is essential moment of the universal, and negation or mediation is therefore in the universal universal difference. This difference is expressed in the law as the stable image of restless appearance. Thus the supersensible world is a calm realm of laws which through beyond the perceived world, for this exhibits the law only through incessant change, is equally present in it and its immediate tranquil image. This realm of laws is indeed the truth of the understanding, and this truth has the content in the difference that is in the law, but at the same time this realm is only its initial truth and does not fill out appearance completely. The law is present in appearance, but it is not the whole presence of appearance, and with every change of circumstance the law has a different actuality. Thus appearance retains for itself an aspect that is not in the interior, or appearance is in truth not yet posited as appearance, as sublated being for itself. This deficiency of the law must equally reveal itself in the law itself. What seems to be defective in it is that while it does not have difference in it, the difference is universal, indeterminate. However, insofar as it is not the law in general, but a law, it does have determinacy in it. Consequently, there are indefinitely many laws. By this multiplicity is itself rather a defect, that is, it contradicts the principle of the understanding for which, as consciousness of the simple interior, the true is the in itself universal unity. The understanding must therefore let the many laws concede in just one law, such as, e.g., the law by which a stone falls, and by which and I'm pretty sure this was all talked about in Iron Lung, Markiplier's new movie. This is what that movie felt like. The feeling that you're feeling right now is the same feeling that I was feeling when I was watching that movie. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. but I'm like, what is even going on? How many universal universes are we universing? The answer is so many. The unification of all laws in universal attraction expresses no more content than just the mere concept of law itself, which is posited in that law as simply being. Universal attraction merely says that everything has a constant difference in relation to other things. The understanding supposes that it has thereby found a universal law which expresses the universal actuality as such. But in fact, it has only found the concept of law itself, although in such a way that at the same time it thereby declares all actuality is in its own self conformable to law. The expression of universal attraction is therefore of great importance insofar as it is directed against the thoughtless representation to which everything presents itself in the shape of contingency, and for which determinancy has the form of sensory independence. Thus, universal attraction, or the pure concept of law, stands in contrast to determinate laws, insofar as this pure concept is regarded as the essence, or as the true interior. The determinancy of the determinate law itself still belongs to appearance, or rather to sensory being. But the pure concept of law does not merely go beyond the law which, itself a determinate law, stands in contrast to other determinate laws, but also goes beyond law as such. The determinacy of which we spoke is itself really only a vanishing moment which we can no longer occur here as essentiality, for only the law is present as the true, but the concept of law is turned against the law itself. That is to say, in the law, the difference itself is apprehended immediately and taken up into the universal, but along with that, a subsistence of the moments, whose relation to the universal expresses as essentialities that are indifferent and in themselves. But these parts of the difference in the law are at the same time themselves determinate sides in its true meaning. The pure concept of law as universal attraction must be conceived in that way such that in this concept, as something absolutely simple, the differences that are present in the law as such themselves return again into the interior as simple unity. This unity is the inner necessity of the law. The law is thereby present in a twofold manner: once, as law in which the differences are expressed as independent moments, and secondly, in the form of simple being, withdrawn into itself, which again can be called force, but in such a way that is not repressed force, but force in general, or as the concept of force, an abstraction which absorbs into itself the very differences of what attracts and what is attracted. Thus, simple electricity, uh, ergo, is the force, but the expression of difference falls within the law. This difference is positive and negative electricity. In the case of the motion of falling, the force is the simple factor, gravity, which has the law that the magnitudes of the different moments of the motion, the time elapsed and the space traversed, are related to each other as root and square. Electricity itself is not difference in itself, or in its essence the dual essence of positive and negative electricity. Hence it is usually said that it has the law to be in this way, and also that it has the property of expressing itself thus. It is true that this property is the essential and unique property of this force, or that it is necessary to it. But necessity here is an empty word. Force must duplicate itself in this way because it must. Of course, if positive electricity is posited, negative electricity too is necessary in itself, for the positive is only as relation to a negative, or the positive is in its own self the difference from itself as similarly to the negative. But that electricity as such should divide itself in this way is not in itself the necessity. Electricity as simple force is indifferent to the law, to be as positive and negative, and if we call the former its concept but the latter its being, then its concept is indifferent to its being, but it merely has this property. That is, precisely, it is not in itself necessary to it. This indifference takes another shape when it is said that to be as positive and negative belongs to the definition of electricity. Oh no, I did the thing. I moved the mouse. Oh man. Oh, I ruined it all. Nice job. Nice freaking job. Okay. I think we were right about here. Being it merely has this property that is precisely not in itself necessary to it. That looks like a water break to me. Thank God. This indifference takes another shape when it is said that to be as positive and negative belongs to the definition of electricity, or that this is simply its concept and essence. In that case, its being would mean its existence in general, but the necessity of its existence is not involved in that definition. Its existence is there, either because we find it, i.e., it is not necessary at all, or by means of other forces. Its necessity is an external necessity, but in locating the necessity in the determinacy of being through something else, we relapse again into the multiplicity of determinate laws by which we have just left behind in order to consider the law as law. It is only with this law as law that we should compare its concept as concept, or its necessity. But in all these forms, necessity has shown itself to still be only an empty word. There is still another way than than that just indicated in which the indifference of law and force, or of concept and being, is present. In the law of motion, e.g., it is necessary that motion be divided into time and space, or then also into distance and velocity, since motion is only the relationship of these moments. Excuse me. Motion, the universal, is here certainly divided in its own self, but now these parts, time and space or distance and velocity, do not express in themselves this origin from one thing. They are indifferent to each other. Space is represented as able to be completely without time, time without space, and distance at least without velocity, just as their magnitudes are indifferent to each other, since they do not stand in relationship as positive and negative, and are thus not related to each other through their essence. As necessity of the division, it is thus certainly present here, but not the necessity of the parts as such for each other. But because of this, the first necessity too is itself only a sham, false necessity, that is, motion is not represented as something simple, or as a pure essence, but already as divided. Time and space are its independent parts, or essence in themselves, or distance and velocity are modes of being or of representation, one of which can well be without the other, and motion is therefore only their superficial relation, not their essence. Represented as simple essence or as force, motion is indeed gravity, but gravity does not contain these differences in it at all. Actually, a surprisingly applicable example is that all orcas are dolphins, but not all dolphins are orcas. So different methods of categorization. The difference then in both cases, unless I'm wrong, which would be pretty funny. The difference then in both cases is no difference in its own self. Either the universal, the force, is indifferent to the division which is in the law, or the differences, the parts of the law, are indifferent to each other. The understanding, however, has the concept of this difference in itself, just because the law is, on the one hand, the interior what is in itself, but is at the same time internally differentiated, that this difference is thus inner difference, is implied in the fact that the law is simple force or as concept of the difference, and therefore a difference of the concept. But at first, this inner difference still falls only within the understanding and is not yet posited in the thing itself. It is therefore only its own necessity that the understanding announces, a difference that therefore establishes only by declaring at the same time that the difference is not a difference of the thing itself. This necessity, which is merely verbal, is thus a recital of the moments that constitute the cycle of the necessity. These moments are indeed differentiated, but at the same time their difference is expressly said to be not a difference of the thing itself, and consequently it is itself at once sublated again. This movement is called explanation. So a law is enunciated from this law. Its universal in itself, or the ground, is differentiated as the force, but it is said that this difference is no difference, rather that the ground is constituted exactly like the law. The single occurrence of lightning, ergo, is apprehended as a universal, and this universal is enunciated as the law of electricity. The explanation then condenses the law into the force as the essence of the law. This force is then so constituted that when it expresses itself, opposite electricities emerge, which disappear again into each other. That is, the force is constituted exactly like the law. There is said to be no difference between whatever, oh my gosh, difference whatever between them. The differences are the pure universal expression or the law and the pure force, but both have the same content, the same constitution. So the difference as difference of content, i.e., I forget what that one stands for, of the thing is also again withdrawn. In this tautological movement, all right, time to look up tautological. Because what? Tautology. Needless repetition of the same sense in different words. Redundancy. Oh, is that not what all of this has been? Is that not what all of this has been? I'm joking. Oh, no, it has. The understanding, as it turns out, sticks to the inert unity of its object, and the movement falls only in the understanding itself, not in the object. It is an explanation that not only explains nothing, but is so plain that while it prepares to say something different from what it has already been said, it really says nothing but only repeats the same thing. In the thing itself, this movement gives rise to nothing new. It comes into consideration only as a movement of the understanding. In it, however, we now recognize the very thing that was missing in the law, vis-a-vis the absolute exchange itself. For this movement, when we look at it more closely, is immediately the opposite of itself. That is to say, it posits a difference which is not only a difference for us, which is only not a difference for us, but a difference that the movement itself sublates as a difference. This is the same exchange that presented itself as the play of forces. This involved the difference of the soliciting and the solicited, of force expressing itself and force repressed into itself. But these were differences which in truth were no differences, and therefore also immediately sublated themselves again. What is present here is not merely bare unity, such that no difference would be posited, but rather this movement in which a difference is certainly established, but, because it is no difference, is sublated again. With explanation, then, the change and exchange, which just now was outside the interior and only in the appearance, has penetrated into the supersensible itself, but our consciousness has passed over from the interior as object to the other side into the understanding, and there it has the exchange. Thus, this exchange is not yet an exchange of the thing itself, but rather presents itself as pure exchange by the very fact that the content of the moments of the exchange remains the same. But since the concept, as concept of the understanding, is the same as the interior of things, this exchange becomes a law of the interior for the understanding. The understanding thus undergoes the experience that it is a law of appearance itself, and that differences arise which are no differences, or that the like named repels itself from itself, and similarly that the differences are only such as are in truth no that the differences are only such as are in truth no differences, and sublate themselves, or that the unlike named attracts itself. Blessed water break. Man, reading this definitely does feel like a brain workout. My head gets kind of fuzzy. But in the same way that holding a weight for a very long period of time strains the arms. So, I think that's a good thing. I choose to believe that's a good thing. A second law, whose content is opposed to what was just now called law, vis-a-vis, the difference remaining constantly like itself. For this new law expresses rather the becoming unlike of the like and the becoming like of the unlike. The concept expects anytime I see something like that, I just kind of like I don't gloss over it, but I'm like, all right, he's verbalizing two things being opposites, and then I just kind of read the words out loud. And I hope that's what you, the listener, are doing as well. The concept expects thoughtlessness to bring both laws together and to become conscious of their opposition. The second is certainly also a law or an inner being that is like itself, but a self likeness rather of unlikeness, a constancy of inconstancy. In the play of forces, this law emerged precisely as this absolute passing over and pure exchange. The like named, the force, decomposes into an opposition which at first appears as an independent difference, but which in fact proves to be no difference, for it is the like named which repels itself from itself, and therefore what is thus repelled essentially attracts itself, for it is the same. The difference established, since it is no difference, therefore sublates itself again. Consequently, the difference displays itself as difference of the thing itself, or as an absolute difference, and this difference of the thing is thus nothing other than the like named that has repelled itself from itself, and is therefore merely posits an opposition which is no opposition. Through this principle, the first supersensible, the tranquil kingdom of laws, the immediate copy of the perceived world, is turned round into its contrary, the law in general, which was that which remains like itself, along with its differences. Now, however, it is posited that each of the two is really the contrary of itself. What is like itself really repels from itself, and what is unlike itself really poses itself as what is like itself. In fact, it is only when thus determined that the difference is the inner difference, or the difference in its own self, when the like is unlike itself, and the unlike like itself. Water break. Oh, this second supersensible world is in this way the inverted world. And indeed, since one side is already present in the first supersensible world, the inversion of this first world. With this, the interior is completed as appearance, for the first supersensible world was only the immediate elevation of the perceived world into the universal element. It had its necessary counterpart in the perceived world, which still retained for itself the principle of exchange and alteration. The first realm of laws lacked that principle, but acquires it as inverted world. So, by the law of this inverted world, the like named and in the first world is the unlike of itself, and what is unlike in the first world is equally unlike itself, or it becomes like itself. In determinate moments, the result will be this. What in the law of the first world is sweet, in this inverted in itself is sour. What in the former is black is in the other white. What in the law of the first is the north pole of the magnet is in its other supersensible in itself, a vis-a-vis in the earth. The south pole. But what is there south pole is here north pole. Similarly, what in the first law of electricity is the oxygen pole becomes in its other supersensible essence, hydrogen pole. And conversely, what is there the hydrogen pole becomes here the oxygen pole. In another sphere, revenge on an enemy is by the immediate law the supreme satisfaction of the injured individuality. This law, however, that I should display myself as an essence in the face of one who does not treat me as an independent essence, and rather sublate him as essence, inverts itself by the principle of the other world into the opposite law. The restoration of myself as the essence by the sublation of the alien essence inverts itself into self-destruction. If now this inversion which is displayed in the punishment of crime is made into a law, it too is again only the law of the one world, which has confronting it which has confronting it an inverted supersensible world, in which what is contemned, all right, pausing to look up what contemned means. Nope, contemned. CONTEMMNED, contemned. To view with contempt. Oh, wow. Okay. To view with contempt, despise. Synonym, despise. To view or treat with contempt. Okay, so contemned in the former meets with honor, and what in the former is held in honor falls into contempt. The punishment by which the law of the first world disgraces and annihilates a man is transformed in its inverted world into the pardon which preserves his essence and brings him to honor. Looked at superficially, this inverted world is the contrary of the first in the sense that it has the first world outside it and repels it from itself as an inverted actuality, that the one is appearance while the other is the in itself, that the one is the world as it is for another, whereas the other by contrast is the world as it is for itself, so that, to use the previous examples, what tastes sweet would really or internally in the thing sour, or what is the North Pole in the actual magnet of appearance would be the South Pole in the inner or essential beings. What presents itself as oxygen pole in the apparent electricity would be hydrogen pole in unapparent electricity, or an action which in appearance is a crime should in the interior be capable of really being good. A bad action may have had a good intention. I don't know about this, Hegel. Punishment should be punishment only in the appearance, but in itself, or in another world, a benefit for the criminal. But such oppositions of inner and outer, of appearance and supersensible, as of two kinds of actuality, are no longer present here. The repelled differences are not distributed anew among two substances as the such as would support them and lend them a separate subsistence, whereby the understanding would withdraw from the interior and relapse again into its previous position. The one side or substance would again be the world of perception, in which one of the two laws would go about its essential business, and confronting it would be an inner world, such as a sensory world, as the first, only in representation. It could not be exhibited as a sensory world, could not be seen, heard, tasted, and yet would be represented as such a sensory world. But in fact, if the one posit is something perceived, and its in itself, as its inversion, is equally represented, is equally something represented, then the sour, which would be the in itself of the sweet thing, is a thing just as actual as the sweet thing, vis-a-vis a sour thing. The black, which would be the in itself of the white, is an actual black. The North Pole, in which is the in itself of the South Pole, is the North Pole, present in the same magnet. The oxygen pole, which is the in itself of the hydrogen pole, is the oxygen pole present in the same pile. The actual crime, however, has its inversion and its in itself as possibility, the intention as such, but not in a good intention, for the truth of the intention is only the deed itself. But as regards its content, the crime has its reflection into itself or its inversion in the actual punishment. For this is the reconciliation of the law with the actuality opposed to it in the crime. Finally, the actual punishment has its inverted actuality in it such a way that the punishment is an actualization of the law, whereby the activity exercised by the law as punishment sublates itself, and from being active, the law becomes again quiescent. All right, we're pausing to look up quiescent. I don't remember how to spell it. All right, there we go. Quiescent, quiet, still, or inactive. Synonym, inactive. Okay. Quiescent and valid, and the movement of individuality against the law, whereby the activity exercised by the law is punishment. So, oh, I already read that. And the movement of individuality against law and the movement of the law against individuality are extinguished. So, from the representation of inversion, which constitutes the essence of one side of the supersensible world, we must remove the sensory representation of the consolidation of the differences in a distinct element of subsistence, and this absolute concept of the difference must be presented and conceived purely as inner difference, as repulsion of the like named as like named from itself, and the being like of the unlike as unlike. We have to think the pure exchange or the opposition of within itself the contradiction. For in the difference which is an inner difference, the opposite is not merely one of two. If it were, it would be just a being, not an opposite, but it is the opposite of an opposite, or the other is itself immediately present in it. Certainly, I put the contrary here, and the other of which is in the contrary there. So I put the contrary on one side, in and for itself, without the other. But just because I have here the contrary in and for itself, it is the contrary of itself, or it has in fact the other immediately within itself. Thus the supersensible world, which is the inverted world, has at the same time encroached upon the other world and has it within itself. For it is for itself the inverted world, i.e., the inversion of itself. It is itself and its opposite in one unity. Only thus is this world the difference as inner difference, or difference in its own self, or difference as infinity. Oh, man. Oh, let's pause here. Let's pause here right at 161. Man, again, we are single-handedly destroying the concept of attention span. Of a shortened attention span, or maybe I'm honestly making my shortened attention span worse. Um, Man, it has been a minute since having to read books and formulate thoughts for this long and like try to comprehend while I'm reading. Woof. It's quite a challenge. Not a terrible challenge, but um, it is quite a challenge. All right, what do we got? We got Zarya, we got Hogger, we got Chen. Between these three, I am strongest, I'd say probably with Zarya, but my number 2 would be Chen. Yeah, we don't have a lot of damage. We don't have a lot of damage at all. Looks like I'm going to be our damage. I don't know how to do damage with Chen. I'm sure that you can, but I just don't know how to do it. So instead, we're going to be Zarya. Zarya can deal a lot of damage, and depending on their team, is going to determine if I'm going to be melee damage or ranged. Ranged, ranged, melee, ranged, ranged. Ugh. Ugh. The ox warbled. Alright, what's their Zarya doing? She's going melee, which is fair because we've got a lot of melee. For every 5 enemy here, charge rate up to 3.5 seconds. Increase its radius. I think I'm gonna go for grenade build. Yeah, I'm gonna go for grenades. Boink. Oh no, I'm dead. Thank you. Well, how was I supposed to retreat from that? Ow. Zarya is a great siege character. Like the amount of distance that you can undergo is great. So I do not win. Ooh, but I gotcha. Oh, nice bubble. I do not win in melee, and I should try to avoid melee conflict as much as possible. I need to just stay ranged. Oh no. Pop my bubble. Whenever things get tough. Boop. So again, what we're doing right now... Ooh, God. This is the exact thing that I needed to stay away from. Okay. The more Qs that I land, the faster my Qs come back. So what we're doing right now is we're investing in our futures. We're futures trading here. We're going to try to put as much hurt onto that Raynor as possible. Let's see what... Okay, I can do a little bubble on you. I think I'm going to go with give me 20. Just because then I'll have more bubbles, and more bubbles is better. And I should have picked my talent a little bit earlier. Nice. Okay, so now we've got increased damage on our range on our Qs, so we can land more Qs from further, which is always going to be a nice thing. Especially if we are going to be our primary damage, which I believe is going to be the case. Anduin is doing a great job keeping us all alive. I'm going to go for this globe over here. Yoink. Nice. Got two. No. Alright, level 7's here. Let's go with particle grenade deals more damage. So if I land my Qs, feels great. And you're right there. Oh, I almost got him. Boing. Oh, damn. You're right there. Oh, I was hoping so bad. I was hoping so bad. Okay, let's go back. Get a little... Oh no, Dehaka. Okay. Man, that Stitch just keeps getting away with 1 health. I can't wait for level 20. Level 20, all my grenades come back at the same time, which will be really nice. Let's see if I can get this globe. Is that gonna be better? Oh, they're at 14. They stole the globe. Oh no, Anduin. Okay. Boing. Boing. Oh, we need to be so careful. Oh, when I'm in the bubble. Let's see. Okay, well, I got shut down. But the nice thing was, I did try to use my ult, but it didn't get taken away from me. So, thank goodness. They have a lot more damage than us, just overall. Which sucks. Let's see. Okay, the best thing that I can do is wait. Gotcha. I was like, alright, Mephisto's got to come back sometime. Got him. Whee! Yeah, Zarya Q build is pretty fun. Just a whole lot of throwing things from really far away. Okay, I need that globe. I need this globe. We're halfway to our new ability. Boing. Okay. No way. Got you out of the belly. Okay. Oh, give me that. Give me that globe. And then let's go get this one too before they steal it. Yoink. Let's get that one. And can we get this one? Nice. That's huge. No freaking way. That's okay because of our level 20 or level whatever that was. Dang. Dang, my W was almost there. My W was almost there. I think I was trying to look at if I could aim my Q a little bit better. Let's see. Untalented shield to a nearby ally. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. The more bubbles out the better. Because that'll keep my keep my energy up. Dang, I should have turned around a little bit sooner. I should have turned around a little bit sooner. But you could see exactly how much that Zarya was shredding me. Just with the difference in uh, that level 1 talent. We do need 3 more regen globes in order to hit the gimme 20. Muradin, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know what that was entirely supposed to accomplish. We just need to back it up. Damn. He had me either way. I mean, he could have just hit me with a slam at any point in time, which sucks. Oh man. So far, I think this is now part 4, and I think for parts 2, 3, and 4. No, no, we had a win earlier today. It just doesn't feel like it. It just doesn't feel like it. Yeah, that's all right. Anduin, I will save you. Stand and fall. Okay. I'm also starting to get really hungry, which may be a good time, which means that now may be a good time to stop this ball a rolling. Just a little personal life update. We don't have a fridge. Um, so without a fridge, it is difficult to be alive. Oh, but I just looked at how close we are to finishing out this entire chapter, and we can move on to section B. Ah, damn it. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's freaking go. I can get food when I'm done with this. Okay. Through infinity, we see the law completed to necessity within itself, and all moments of appearance taken up into the interior. That the simplicity of the law is infinity means, according to what has emerged, A, it is something like itself, which is, however, the difference in itself, or it is a like named which repels itself from itself or divides in two. What was called the simple force duplicates itself, and through its infinity is the law. The division, I have no idea what that symbol is. It looks like a little butt cheek, which constitutes the parts represented in the law, presents itself as something subsistent. And considered without the concept of the inner difference, then these parts, space and time, or distance and velocity, which emerge as moments of gravity, are indifferent and without necessity for each other, as well as for gravity itself. Just as this simple gravity is indifferent to them, or simple electricity is indifferent to positivity and positive and negative electricity. That's a funky looking Y. But through the concept of the inner difference, this unlike and indifferent part, space and time, etc., etc., is a difference which is no difference, or only a difference of the like named, and its essence is unity. As positive and negative, they are inspired with regard to each other into activity, and their being is rather to posit themselves as not being to and to sublate themselves in the unity. There subsist two differentiated items. They are in themselves, and they are in themselves as opposites, i.e., the opposite of themselves. They have other in them, and are only one unity. This simple infinity, if there is such a concept, or the absolute concept, may be called the simple essence of life, the soul of the world, the universal blood, whose omnipresence is neither disturbed nor interrupted by any difference, but rather is itself all differences, and also their sublatedness. So it pulsates within itself, but does not move, vibrates within itself, yet is at rest. It is like itself, for the difference are tautological. They are differences that are no differences. This essence, like itself, is therefore related only to its own self. To its own self. So this is an other to which the relation proceeds, and the relating to itself is rather a division, or that very likeness to itself is inner difference. These divided fragments are thus in and for themselves each a contrary of another, so the other is at the same time announced therein together with itself. Or it is not the contrary of another, but the pure contrary, and so it is therefore in its own self the contrary of itself. Or it is not a contrary at all, but purely for itself, a pure, self like essence that has no difference in it. So we do not need to ask the question, still less regard fretting over such a question as philosophy, nor even to consider it a question philosophy cannot answer. The question, how, is from this pure essence. How does this difference or otherness issue from it? From the division has all for the division has already taken place. The difference is excluded from the like itself and set apart from it. What is supposed to be the like in itself? No, the like itself is thus already one of the divided fragments instead of being the absolute essence. The like itself divides itself, means, therefore, just as well, it sublates itself as already divided. It sublates itself as otherness, the unity of which it is usually said that difference cannot issue from it, is in fact only one moment of the division. It is the abstraction of the simplicity which confronts the difference, but because the unity is an abstraction, only one of the opposites, it is already said that it is the act of dividing. For if the unity is a negative and opposite, then it is just posited as that which has opposition in it. The differences of dividing and of becoming like itself are therefore equally only this movement of self sublation. For since the like itself, which is supposed first to divide itself or become its contrary, is an abstraction, or is already itself a divided fragment, Its dividing is thereby a sublation of what it is, and therefore the sublation of its dividedness. Becoming like itself is equally an act of dividing. What becomes like itself thereby confronts the division, i.e., it thereby puts itself on one side, or rather, it becomes a divided fragment. Infinity, or this absolute unrest of pure self movement, in which whatever is determined in any way, ergo, as being, is rather the contrary of this determinacy, has certainly already been the soul of all that has gone on before, but it is in the interior that it has first come forth freely. Appearance, or the play of forces, already presents it, but it is an explanation that it first of all steps forth freely, and since infinitude is finally object for consciousness, as that which it is, consciousness is thus self consciousness. The understanding's explanation initially gives only the description of what self consciousness is. The understanding sublates the difference present in the law, the differences which have already become pure differences but are still indifferent, and posits them in one unity, the force. This becoming like is just as immediately a division, for the understanding sublates the difference and posits the unit of force only by establishing a new difference, that of law and of force, which, however, at the same time is no difference. And besides the fact that this difference is likewise no difference, the understanding itself goes on to sublate this difference again, in that it lets the force be constituted just as the law is. However, this movement or necessity is thus still a necessity and a movement of the understanding, or the movement as such is not its object, but in this movement the understanding has as objects positive and negative electricity, distance, velocity, force of attraction, and a thousand other things that constitute the content of the moments of the movement. The reason why explaining involves so much self satisfaction is just because in it consciousness engaged, as one might express it, in immediate monologue with itself, enjoys only itself, although it seems to be occupied with something else, it is in fact preoccupied only with itself. In the opposite law, as the inversion of the first law, or in the inner difference, infinity does not Oh wait, no. Infinity itself does indeed become the object of understanding, becomes object of the understanding. But once again, the understanding falls short of infinity as such, since it again apportions the two worlds, or to two substantial elements, the difference in itself, the self repulsion of the like named, and the unlikes that attract each other, to the understanding, the movement, as it is in experience. Here is a happening, and the like named and the unlike are predicates, whose essence is a substrate that simply is. What is for the understanding, an object in a sensory covering, is for us in its essential form as a pure concept. This apprehension of the difference as it is in truth, or the apprehension of infinity as such, is for us or in itself. The exposition of the concept of infinity belongs to science, but consciousness, now that it has this concept immediately, comes on the scene again as a form of its own, or as a new shape of consciousness which does not recognize its essence in what has gone before, but regards it as another thing altogether. Since this concept of infinity is an object for it, consciousness is thus consciousness of the difference as something that is also immediately sublated. Consciousness is for its own self. It is a differentiating of the undifferentiated, or self consciousness. I differentiate myself from myself, and in this it is immediately for me that what is differentiated is not differentiated. I, the like named, repel myself from myself, but what is differentiated, posited as unlike, is immediately, now that it is differentiated, no difference for me. Consciousness of another, of an object in general, is of course necessarily self-consciousness. Reflected No, I got that right. Reflectedness into itself, consciousness of itself in its otherness, the necessary advance from this previous shapes of consciousness for which their true was a thing, and the and other than themselves expresses just this, that not only is consciousness of the thing possible only for a self-consciousness, but that self-consciousness alone is the truth of those shapes. But it is only for us that this truth is present, not yet for consciousness, but self-consciousness has become only for itself, not yet as unity with consciousness in general. We see that the interior of appearance, what the understanding in truth gets to experience, is nothing other than an appearance itself, only not appearance as it is as the play of forces, but rather that play of forces in its absolutely universal movements and in their movement, and in fact the understanding experiences only itself. Elevated above perception, consciousness presents itself joined together with the supersensible through the middle term of appearance, a middle term through which it gazes into this background. The two extremes, the one that of the pure interior, and the other that of the interior gazing into this pure interior, have now coincided, and just as they, as extremes, have vanished, so too the middle term, as something other than these extremes, has also vanished. This screen in front of the interior has therefore been drawn away, and the gaze of the interior into the interior is at hand. The gaze of the undifferentiated like named, which repels itself, posits itself as differentiated interior, but for which, just as immediately, there is undifferentiatedness, self consciousness. It turns out that behind the so called screen, which is supposed to conceal the interior, there is nothing to be seen unless we go behind it ourselves, not only in order that we may see, but also that there may be something behind there that can be seen. But at the same time, it emerges that we cannot go directly behind without ceremony, for this knowledge of what is the truth of the representation of appearance and its interior is itself only the result of a complex movement whereby the modes of consciousness, meaning, perceiving, and the understanding vanish, and it will likewise emerge that the cognition of what consciousness knows when it knows itself requires still further circumstances, the exposition of which is what follows. Woof. We did it. We did it, Joe. The next part that concludes consciousness. So if we thought consciousness was complex in the far off sense, we've got self consciousness on the docket starting up next time. Which the actual streaming of this may be tomorrow, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. I'm not 100% sure. It's currently February 5th, 2026. Um, there is civil unrest everywhere, as there should be. And I will likely go to participate in it immediately after I go get some lunch. I hope y'all that had, I hope that everyone who's listened had a good time. If you've got any clarifications, questions, or anything at all, please feel free to leave a comment. I think I'm somebody who thrives off of dialogue rather than just reading. But I'm reading all this to start a dialogue. So again, if you have anything, send it over. I would love to engage. Um, Hope y'all have a good day. Thank you for standing by and standing by. Let's edit that out because that's don't want to throw out Nazi dog whistles. Who said that? Um, Um, oh my god, I've completely derailed my introduction because of how much I detest people who say that phrase of standing by. Good job, Chase. So, thank you all so much for coming by. I hope you had a very good time listening. Hope you enjoyed some of the games. Maybe learned something about Heroes of the Storm. Maybe learned something about consciousness. When we dig into it next time, we're going to learn all about self consciousness. Hope you all have a very good day. Bye.